Hey, everybody. On today's show, we have friends of the podcast all the way from our neighbors up north in Canada, Lex and Sadie, who are a transgender couple, are going to be joining us today. Lex, they, them, is part of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence and a sex worker. And Sadie, she, her, is a drag queen and an associate professor in the Department of Women's Studies and Feminist Research at the University of Western Ontario. So we're going to talk all about their lives, how they moved from San Diego to Canada, trans issues. We're going to get into a bunch of stuff. So grab a drink and enjoy the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Who Invited Her. We are San Diego's LGBTQ pop culture podcast. I am your host, Tony, and I'm here with my other host. Say hi, Miss Miriam T.
Hey, it's she, her, me, Miss Miriam T.
She's back this week.
Clown dumpster. I know. Much better than Michelada, right?
Right?
You. I'm so sorry I left you with her.
I blame you. And Eric is here this week. Say hi, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
He's dumbass. Bashy is off this week, everybody. He will be back next week, but we have two very, very special guests that I'm super excited that are on the show today, all the way from Canada. Sadie and Lex are here. Hi, you two. How are you?
Hi, we're so excited to be here.
I know. I'm so excited for this episode.
Time.
I know.
I missed y'all.
I know. For people,
I never thought I'd get here.
Right. For people that don't know, Lex and Sadie were here in San Diego for a long time, and they made the move to Canada, and that's where they're living now. They got married, and that's where they are. So before we get into the meat of the episode, I wanted to get a little backstory on Lex and Sadie, because I've known Lex for a while. And I remember meeting Sadie at Number One very randomly at a Michelada show. And we were standing right next to each other and we're talking, just chit-chatting. And then later on, when you and Lex got together, I was like, I remember meeting Sadie at Number One on Fifth, so randomly. But you guys were in the scene here in San Diego for a while, and you made the transition up to Canada. So when did you guys decide to make that move, and why?
Okay, so I'm from Toronto.
Originally, okay.
Yeah. I went to UCSD for my PhD. So that's when I lived in San Diego. I was there for 6 years. And then, the decision to come back to Toronto was, I was graduating. There are way fewer universities in Canada than there are in the US. And I kind of knew more people here. I figured I'd have a better shot at getting a job out here.
Yeah. And
I have been working since I got out here. So that was kind of what was behind the move. And, we got married, so that Lex came with me.
Yeah. Because Lex, you were here. Where were you from originally? San Diego?
Yeah. I grew up in San Diego. I've lived everywhere in fucking San Diego, but...
Okay, first, what part of San Diego did you grow up in? Were you in Chula Vista?
How dare you?
Oh my
what
God.
part? Because I'm a native too, you know that. What part did you grow up in?
Well, no, Chula Vista.
Yep, Chulawana, me too. I was out there.
No, we grew up not far from each other.
No, exactly, we did it.
So Chula Vista.
Yeah.
I moved out of my family house when I was 17, and I moved to the not so great part of Golden Hills at the time.
Was it way before Golden Hills became hip and trendy? It was with Golden Hills.
It was more like crack and meth.
Right? Thank you. Nobody remembers those days.
Yeah,
but it was.
Yeah. Because the hip and trendy part was north of the 94. If you were south of the 94,
so true.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same with North Park. Remember, North Park used to be you go there to get drugs and shit. And now...
I used to live for a while I lived in the East Village, and I remember when the East
Ooh.
Village was the Tenderloin, and it was like all the trans, like street sex workers.
Yeah.
Like it was a rough scene.
Yeah.
It was a rough scene.
And then now,
So when
not
I
so much.
moved down there, it had been completely gentrified.
Yeah.
We lived in a super cute building right on the island, and I'm like, but where are all the hookers?
Where are the hookers? So Sadie went back to Toronto before you did, right, Lex? And then
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
was the transition going from San Diego up to Canada? Like just the change from culture and everything for you?
It actually isn't too bad. People here are incredibly nice, like to a fault. You know, I'm a SoCal kid.
Yeah.
Everything's like quick, talk fast, get the fuck out of my way. Plus, we're queer. We just do everything a step and a half faster than everybody else. And here, like, people, even if they're pissed at you, will to a fault be polite and be nice and function a little bit slower.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, get the fuck out of my way. But it actually wasn't bad.
Except for when they're driving.
Oh my God, people drive here insane. It makes
Really?
LA look like nothing. But the transition was really easy. The move itself was hard because I decided to drive cross country with one of my best friends. And you all know we have a bunny.
Yeah.
So she did not handle the cross country commute well at all. She almost died. It was the whole fucking mess.
Oh no. So how would you compare the queer community in Toronto in Canada compared to here in San Diego for you two?
It's way less cohesive here. It's a much bigger city.
Okay.
We have what, 6 million people in
That's a huge
just
city.
Toronto. So it's a much less cohesive community. Also, at least for my personal experience and my opinion, it's much more broadly accepted here. Like her and I can walk down the street holding hands anywhere in the city and nobody bats an eye. It's not an issue. Where like in San Diego, there are parts of San Diego where like even by myself, I wouldn't necessarily go.
Yeah.
And there's not that many. You know, I'm not trying to say San Diego's bad. It's just there's pockets where, you know, a trans person needs to be a little bit more cautious.
Yeah, for sure.
Right now. Here, I feel a lot safer, especially being a trans person of color. It's much, much more inclusive here.
Yeah.
So people kind of just don't register what's happening. We live in the suburbs. A lot of people in our building have kids. Nobody bats an eye when they see us. Kids talk to us. It's not like a big deal.
That is so refreshing.
It forms a less cohesive. I think it forms like a less cohesive community because that lack of oppression doesn't force people together the way it does in other places.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. Another question, because we're coming up to an election, and if the idiot in the White House gets elected again, you know, people are going to be like, we're moving to Canada. So how was getting married? How easy was it to get married up there as a trans couple and all of that?
Can I just say that people have been giving the "We're moving to Canada" line since George Bush got elected the first time. I remember being at the Warped Tour and having some Americans being like, "We're definitely going to be moving to Canada. We're not sticking around," and they always stayed around. So
the Warped Tour. That's so funny, Sadie. You bring up the Warped Tour. I used to go to the Warped Tour like every summer when it happened. And that was a big concert tour here in San Diego. 91X, local station here in San Diego, put it on. They were one of the sponsors, right? If I remember right, from Warped Tour. Yeah. There was so many bands I remember seeing way back in the day.
Everybody was like really vocal. They had the Rock Against Bush records coming out.
I remember that,
I fucking hate George Bush. And I was just like, you're never going to come. And they never did.
I wonder if now, because Trump's a whole nother beast and it's a nightmare, literal nightmare, if people are more like really considering it. But if people wanted to move, like how Lex, how you went up after Sadie was there, how easy was it to get married as a trans couple up in Canada compared to maybe the US?
So here, to be completely honest, I don't know what the regulations are for trans couples, trans identifying individuals to marry in
Mhm.
the States. We got married here. It wasn't an issue. They didn't question our documents. I had all of my documents changed like years and years ago because I'm old. And I'm old, but let's just put it that way. So, you know, all of my documents represent my current gender, my gender. But you know, I don't know what it would be like to get married in the U.S. Here, it wasn't a big deal at all. We went in, we made an appointment at a chapel,
Uh-huh.
and we got married. And the next day, we were at our attorney, who we had already had a consult with, and we started the paperwork.
Wow, that easy. It just sounds
Canada,
easy.
Canada passed marriage equality in 2006, I believe.
Oh, way before us here in the
Yes.
US, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. How, and Sadie, for you, how easy was it to get your name changed at Ruiz to the last? Because I know here in the U.S., in a lot of states, that is such an issue, even for just gay couples getting married, whether they're transgender or whatever. It's so hard still here in the U.S. to do that. In Canada, how easy was it for you?
You know, it's so right now it's really easy if you want to get an X. If
Mhm.
you're, you know, an X for non-binary. The process to switch, like I did from M to F, is a little bit more complicated, but it's not necessarily, it's not so much difficult as it is like a lot of paperwork and things, you know, people get things wrong like 2 or 3
Yeah.
times in a row because, you know, people don't think automatically, oh, this person is transgender, that's what's happening here. And I just remember having to refile out the paperwork a couple times. It took a good deal of time, but in the end, it happened. It really wasn't that hard. I mean, I didn't have my gender. Well,
It
did I
took
have?
forever.
Yeah.
I kept fucking it up.
Did I have my gender? No, I didn't have my name, my legal name change
Yeah.
when we first started to file our immigration papers,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and we just had to like scan some documents when it finally went through, and you know, it actually, I mean, let's also say we like got a really good lawyer because I didn't
See,
want
that's
nothing
good.
to do with that shit.
Yeah.
So but overall we didn't have that much difficulty.
Yeah.
I will say, like, having gone through the process in the US and then watching my partner go through it here, they were dramatically different processes. For me to
Really?
get my name changed, I had to go through a bunch of shit. I had to publish an ad in a newspaper in the city that I lived in for 6 months. It had to run for 6 months. I had to show proof of it to the court. I had to file an application with the court to have a legal decree of name change. It was like a big fucking deal, and it was really
Wow.
expensive.
Yeah.
For her, it was definitely more like you got a medical clearance, and she went and filed the appropriate documents.
Mhm.
You know, for me, it was, I think out of pocket, I did it on my own without an attorney. I think I spent $1,200 just on legal fees.
Holy shit, are
Wow.
you
That was-
serious?
And that was back in 2005.
Wow.
Before Mary
Wow.
was born.
Yeah. Wow. And so now you guys are both in Canada, and Sadie, you're working at the university. You teach a course in transgender studies. How has
Yes.
that been? Like, what is involved in the course for people who are maybe even curious about taking the course?
So this is my second year running it, and because we're doing it online this year, I actually had to change a lot.
Mhm.
I'm a punk at heart, like we already talked about
'Cause
it.
you had a band. You had a band,
Yeah.
right?
And I like to do my courses with a lot of like, okay, people, go and make something. Make me a zine. Make me something stupid, right?
Yeah.
But because we're doing it online, it's a lot more reading, a lot more kind of, you know, group commenting threads,
Yeah.
you know, on particular articles. But overall, you know, we're going to be talking about the origins of gender as we know it today, you know, where these gender categories come from, how long people have been, understanding themselves within this category of transgender. We're going to be talking about some specialty topics like Black trans identities, Indigenous trans identities. It's sort of like a survey. It's constructed as a very introductory course.
Okay. It's getting the knowledge out there. That's what's important, is getting people aware and getting them educated about the topic, which I think there's a lot of people that may, hopefully we answer a lot of questions in this episode, but I think there's a lot of people who either don't know a trans person or feel comfortable enough with maybe their trans friends that they have to ask questions that may seem dumb, but they just don't know where else to go to get the information. Do you know what I mean? So I'm hoping in this episode we can answer some of those questions for people. But I know, Lex, when you were here in San Diego, you did hair and makeup, and which is, if you guys have not seen Lex in person, her face is amazing. Their face is amazing. Your makeup skills are amazing. How did you, now that you're in Canada, are you still doing makeup and hair along with the sex work, or did you just transition into just doing sex work up there?
So before we went into lockdown with the pandemic, her and I started a nonprofit that caters specifically to trans femme identifying individuals. And let me back up for a second. I had hit a wall with doing hair and makeup for cis women. I just had enough. It just got old. I've been doing it for a really long time. When I was 15, I started working in cosmetics, and at 20, I started doing hair. So, I did hair for 21 years. So
I didn't know that you were 21 years past 20.
So so I just was done with it. So when we moved here, I'm grateful. I told her, I don't want to do hair anymore. I'm done with it. I need to move on to something else. But I do enjoy makeup, and being a makeup artist and working in the beauty industry, it became really obvious to me that trans women don't have access to the education and products in the same way that cis women do, or drag queens. Being a trans person, and I recognize my cis passing privilege, I was working in cosmetics and I was able to access those things very easily. But that's not always the case. For women who transition later in life, or who are non-binary or genderqueer and play with their presentation, they may not feel comfortable walking into Nordstrom and going up to even the mat counter sometimes. It's just, the accessibility isn't there in all places. So I started to notice that when we first moved to Toronto, everyone here is a little bit more conservative in their style. When we first moved here, I stuck out a lot. I mean, I still do. But I stuck out a lot. I've got the undercut. Half the time
I love that too.
I know. I love it. The undercut, to me, the undercut is very signature Lex. That, as long as I've known you, that's when I think of Lex, that's what I think of, the undercut.
I think I'm 4 years of having it, and it changes. It used to actually be my entire head except for a mohawk.
Really?
Now just this stuff.
It's so hot. I love it.
I know. I love it.
So teaching her how to work with her makeup outside of drag, because that was a learning curve for her. She came into makeup from the drag community, and the way drag queens wear makeup versus the way trans femme identifying people wear makeup is very different. You need to be able to walk into an office or whatever your job is and feel presentable, but also not have a fucking beard contour. It just doesn't work.
Michelada.
Which is funny because Lex and Sadie know Michelada. Last week's episode. Watch. You'll see what we're talking about.
So it was things like that. It's learning to work with the topography of the face. And so because I was here on my visitor visa, being able to work really wasn't an option. I was here on my savings, so even beginning to work really wasn't something I was pressed about. I had applied for my visa, I was waiting. So we started doing in-person and online tutorials, both in groups and one-on-one, working with trans-identifying individuals who wanted to learn to either work with their makeup or hone the skills that they already had and do it in a safe space. So initially we were doing it here in our home. I have a full beauty vanity set up in the other room. And for those who wanted to do it in their own home, we were doing it online, and I would have them send me a list of whatever it was they were using and what their concerns were, so I could customize that class for them in advance. So that's been something that's been a huge thing for me. It's been a great outlet for makeup. It's been great for me to connect with other trans people and feel like I'm able to give back, because I spent a lot of my early trans life living in the closet, hiding behind my cis passability, especially working in, you know, a predominantly white affluent suburban area. I worked up in North County, and you know, if you spent any time in San Diego,
you would know.
Yeah, it's you know, yeah, it's Republican. So you know, being brown and being trans, I relied on the fact that I could blend in. And now that I've gotten older and I'm much more comfortable with my identification, it's important to me to be visible. And this was a way for me to be visible and connect with other trans people in a way that actually served them.
That makes sense. Okay.
That's awesome.
How did you transfer in from that into sex work for you, Lex? Because I know we're all like,
yeah.
I'm curious. I have questions on this.
Okay, so it's kind of a two-part thing. I have a pretty extensive background in the kink community and fetish lifestyle. And moving here and being with a partner who that's not necessarily her kink. And I respect that. That's not what our relationship's about. I kind of just put that aside. When COVID started, we went into lockdown a few weeks before you all did.
Okay.
So with my visa application pending, my spousal visa, which would have allowed me to work and live here legally, my visitor visa was coming to an end, and COVID started. We went into lockdown. So I was fortunate in that we already had an application in process. The Canadian government extended my visitor visa while I waited for my pending work visa. So I was here legally, but also unable to work. My savings had run out because I had planned about 6-8 months, and we were coming up on 10 when COVID kind of kicked in. It put my work visa about 6 months behind, because I should have gotten it at the end of March, but because of the way everything happened, we got an email saying that all immigration paperwork was coming to a stop so that they could handle repatriating Canadians who were stuck outside of the US due to the lockdown. So I was stuck without a job and running out of money. So her and I talked about it, and I was like, well, I know how to do this, and I can technically do it in the US because I do only online work.
Okay.
So I started doing just camming. With a US website, and then it started, leading to other things. I still only do virtual platforms. I do cams, private shows. It's basically like Peep Show. I'll do custom photo.
Which you have an Instagram account for your...
I do.
Yeah, for Violet Femme, right?
VioletFemme.ts.
Yes.
I had to do the .ts, which I hate because somebody had already taken like 17 versions of Violet Femme.
Oh, really?
I was really stuck on the name too, so I was like, I'm not letting this go.
Right now, while you're talking on the screen for everybody at home who's watching on YouTube, you're seeing pictures of your Instagram account for Violet Femme.
So Violet Femme, Violet
When
with
I
two T's.
when I first saw this, Lex, I was like, look at the size of her waist. She is cinched.
Of course it is.
Yeah. And then I was like, it's like, oh, I was like, God dang.
I love it.
I know. I think it's so cool. It is so
Every time it
cool.
comes up on my stories, I'm like, yes.
Yes,
work.
yes.
I live for a corset. She makes fun of me because on days when I'm not working.
Yeah.
I got a new corset recently, and you have to season it, which is you've got to wear it repeatedly in order for the metal bands
Yeah.
that run vertically, like here, to start to bend and contour towards the body, which is actually what gives you like that really sucked in.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Miriam's like, what do you have to do?
I know her face is like, huh? Miriam,
It's
you've been wearing them wrong this whole time.
I don't wear corsets. I wear latex waist cinchers. I ain't got time for that.
Yeah, it only has to be done if you're wearing a steel-boned corset, and I'm a fan of the steel-bone corset.
That's old school. Steel bone is
It is
like,
old school, and you have to get used to it because it does like press on like your ribs and it pushes things.
Ouch.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So you get used to it. And again, I've been wearing them for a long time, so that wasn't a huge deal.
Miriam's like, I don't know about this.
My little. They say they're steel bone. There's 25, but I don't think they're really steel bone. But my little, it works. It does.
You know, you can tell when you take it off, if it stays in the exact same shape, that's how you know it's got steel boning.
I don't know.
Miriam takes hers off, and you just hear
take
it,
mine off and throw it,
and it goes, oh, thank God.
I'm leaving.
I can't. You weren't here last week. I have to give you a hard time of some kind. Eric, Miriam, do you have questions for Sadie and Lex?
Sadie, are you still doing what's the drag? I want to know, of course. I'm just like
I know drag. You're going right to drag.
Well, I met Sadie. The first time I saw Sadie was at, I want to say it was the first or second Whips and Fur. I think the second.
Oh, Viva's show, yeah.
Were you in? You never say her name right. It is
I know,
Vivi.
I don't. Vivi.
It's not Viva. It's not
Vivi,
Viva.
Vava.
It's
Vivi. I know, it's one of those. I always mess her name up.
Viva.
Viva. I'm just gonna call her the Force from now on.
Were you in?
No, it's not the Force anymore.
Oh, that's right. She changed it. Oh my God.
Incognito.
Okay, I don't know. She blocked
shut up
me.
And let me talk to Sadie.
What?
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Miriam just now she's in the conversation. Okay, go ahead, Mary.
Were you in the first Whips and Furs show? Is that where I saw you?
I was in the second Whips and Furs show and the fourth Whips and Furs show.
I think I saw you in the second one.
Yeah.
I love that picture, Sadie.
And I was like, oh, this kid's wild work. And then I think it was the next one that you made the rocket titties out of.
Yeah.
The rocket titties out of.
We still have them.
Really?
Mark, you made them out of like Snapple bottles, didn't you, or something? The
Snapple
things that
bottle.
Yeah.
It's the first time I messaged you.
Yeah, I think that was it. They got really turned on and they started DMing me. They were
Something
like,
about a paper mache titty
that
gets me wet.
I know. They were like, can I eat the pussy? What are you doing Saturday?
Who knew that paper mache peach Snapple titties would be,
would be the thing.
foundation of a beautiful
It's engraved in our rings.
That's where it went.
And then Sadie was in my Halloween show last year, right? That's the one
I
you
was
were
in the Valentine one.
Yeah, because that's where
You
I
were in my
remember
Valentine's
seeing Sadie,
Day show last year, which was Heartbreak Hotel.
Yeah.
So we did.
Yeah.
She did a very Canadian number with donuts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's Robin Daggers from How I Met Your Mother.
yeah,
That's right.
and a Bride of Frankenstein number.
Yeah, with the Tim Hortons hat on.
Yep.
Are you still doing much draggery, or well before the world started?
So yes and no. I haven't been performing much lately because
I'm sure that's hard
I've
to balance with
been
the college
working a lot.
Yeah.
Just because Lex has been waiting for their visa, so I've sort of been.
Which I now have. Sorry, and I didn't include that in my story. I do now have my visa.
So I was
Yay.
kind of working to make sure that we kept going.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I am working on a book about drag in San Diego. So a lot of my kind of like drag work has actually been a lot of fun pulling that together and talking to, you know, the people. I talked to Norma Baxter, who if anybody knows is the first African American drag queen at the Showbiz Supper Club, which was Lips Before Lips. It was the first drag bar in San Diego. I was talking to Nicole Marie Ramirez, a bunch of people, and I've just been you know, in the drag mode, but also like kind of marrying the drag with the academic.
I love that.
I
Yeah,
know, me too.
So
Is the book
I'm
going to
pulling all that
be
together.
is the book going to be drag history in San Diego and trans history in San
Yeah,
Diego?
so it's sort of interweaving it. I'm really interested. So for those of you who know about, I've been really big reading up on San Diego history because I just fucking love the city.
Yeah. Did you, Sadie, did you see that documentary that came out on PBS about the history of the gay bars in San Diego and all that?
Yeah, so I've been talking to Paul, and Paul's been who's the director, and I've been getting some good stuff from him
That's
about
awesome.
who to talk to. But yeah, so the book is kind of revolving around in 1966, San Diego City Council passed a very wide-reaching anti-cross-dressing ordinance banning cross-dressing. The first time they passed it, it was just like all cross-dressing. And then and that one passed with a split vote. And then they changed it a little bit because people were worried about some shows like theater where there was cross-dressing. Like, you know, there's some Shakespeare stuff, there's cross-dressing. They said technically that's not allowed. So they rewrote it as cross-dressing with the intent to deceive. So it was really targeting trans sex workers. And that was kind of part of the kind of pushing the Tenderloin towards the East Village, away from Horton Plaza where it was, so they can make room for the Horton Plaza and the gas lamp redevelopment.
All of that,
that happened in the 70s. So my project kind of starts off with that in this moment where drag queens and trans people were kind of clumped together and marginalized the same, but then broken apart. You know, one was deemed exempt and the other one was not. And it kind of goes from there to see how these two histories interweave and also come apart. Because there are a lot of transgender drag queens who, you know, in histories about trans people and versus histories about drag, one and the other don't usually get discussed. So my idea was to kind of talk about the two of them together.
I love that. Yeah, that is very. You're absolutely right, Miriam. Totally fascinating. That is a book I would read.
I want to read that too.
Right?
But Tony, you don't know how to read.
Shut the fuck up. Is there going to be an audiobook version? Is there going to be an audiobook version?
Only if Violet Femme narrates.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Fuck yes. It's going to be a live reading at $3 a minute.
So I want to go back to Lex's camming. So what is some of I'm curious of the clientele. Do you get a lot of straight or women, men, bisexual, binary? What is your clientele? I'm really curious about this.
Right? Oh my God, Republicans.
Right, it's like all Republicans.
No, I have a regular who is fascinated. So for Violet, I use she, her pronouns, and I play up the full fantasy femme. Like, I play the dumb bimbo and I giggle at their stupid jokes. And
really?
Yeah, I do the whole thing. Oh, yeah. So I have a client. He always wants a private. And so when we do our privates, He's sitting at his desk in what I assume is his office, and there's a huge Confederate flag on the wall behind him.
Wow.
Really?
And like, yeah, one time he was wearing a MAGA hat. And his whole thing is he really wants to get fucked by a brown trans girl. Miriam leans in.
I know, Miriam's like, I'm listening.
And Miriam's like,
She's
that's my
taking
uncle.
notes.
That's my uncle.
It is all the
He's
way
a
from
very
Arkansas.
generous tipper, Miriam.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, thanks
is
for
my
the
uncle.
referral.
If it is my uncle, I fucked him first.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
So, you know, I have to kind of put, unfortunately, I think as a trans sex worker, we sort of have to compromise our ethics a little bit. We have to be willing to, like for myself, I identify as non-binary, I use they, them pronouns. As Violet, I fully lean into she, her, and I have to let them objectify me because that's how I make my fucking coin.
Yeah.
So, you know, the more of the fantasy they buy into, the easier it is for me to take their money. So yeah, I've got him. I've got guys. So I have a pretty heavy background in BDSM, DDLG, like that.
What's DDLG?
Yeah.
Yeah.
DDLG. It's
LMNOP.
daddy, daughter, little girl.
Shut up. Are you serious?
So yeah. So there's varying spectrums of where you identify.
Tell them what CBT is.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get to that in a second.
What is this CBT?
One afternoon at a time.
I know. I'm like, I have so many
One
questions right
afternoon
now.
at a time. Okay, so if you're a dom, so that's why it's DD. It's dom daddy. So you don't necessarily have to be masc or a man. It's you're a dom, and then LG is, and there's also LB, which is little boy. So what it is it's an adult who role plays a younger age. So for my clients and my background with the DDLG community, I identify as a middle, not a little, with an M. So that's more of like a teenager. So I say that Violet's middle is a 16-year-old. And I totally play like I'm 16 and I want to be a slut, and I wear, like, you've seen some of the photos, I wear like a corset and a schoolgirl skirt with like a harness and dark lipstick, and I lean into that whole fantasy, and they get to live out some kink that they
that they like.
know. And they want to dominate you in that role. So there's also the other side of that where I play femdom, which is a femme who's dominant.
Like a dominatrix style? Like a okay.
The femdom. So like I have a client who likes to play the boy side of DDLG, and he calls me mommy and likes to dress up for me, and he sends me pictures of him in like lace panties and videos. Wow. And when we FaceTime, I call him a little girl.
I love it.
I say like really degrading shit to him because it's what gets him off.
Yeah.
He also likes to send me videos of himself like prancing around the house in like panties and high heels and fishnets. And so we also do a little bit of what's called findom.
You're making Lex. You're making Miriam's day right now. She is having all of it.
Miriam's gonna like this part. Miriam's gonna like this part. So I also do findom, which is where whenever he wants to send me content and I'm not working, or even if I am working, if he wants to send it to me like a photo or a video, he has to pay me in order to send it to me.
Hello.
There you go. Right.
So that's the rule. And he can see whether or not I've opened it through the messenger that we use. And so if there's not a tip attached to that content, I won't open it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
In fact, this morning while we were getting ready, it was funny because I got a message from him. I got an alert. And so I checked it and I didn't even open the message. And I told her, I was like, oh, I just got some coin. Like, because he bought new panties and he had to show me. So
Yeah, to show you.
yeah. I have guys that are into CBT, which is cock and ball torture.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So he likes to he uses his phone to cam me and he sets it between his legs. Like, so I'm basically looking up at his junk.
Mhm.
And he likes to take rubber bands or his phone cord, like charger cord, and wrap it around his junk while I say really degrading shit to him about, the size of his genitalia. I instruct him to abuse himself, whether it's to hit himself or to slap, twist, pull, punch, tighten the rope, like whatever. So I do that.
I want to do that to somebody. I want to just belittle them. Oh
Rob.
my God, that would be.
It's funny. Everyone thinks
Rob.
that you're gonna.
I did to my plant in the background.
You did. That's why it's
Right?
dying.
So, to be completely honest, so like with my background being a submissive, when I started to lean into the femdom stuff, it was hard. I thought, oh, it'll be super easy to talk shit to guys. Like,
Yeah.
men have been treating me like assholes their whole lives. Like, I'm used to being abused by men. I can turn this around. It's a lot harder than you would think because when you're in the moment where someone's actually jerking off, based on what you're saying, you've got to keep going quickly and it has to sound organic.
Yeah.
So it's definitely taken some practice.
How do you, Lex, how do you prepare for that mentally? Like, how is it like getting ready for a show and like you're getting in a character?
It's funny because I call sex work my drag. I don't do performance drag, which I guess sex work is technically performance. What I do is I set up my cam and everything, and then I pick out what I'm gonna wear, lay it out, and then shave my legs. It's like a whole thing. Like I've got music on. It's a whole process, just like getting ready for anything else.
Wow.
I come in the room. The bedroom is my office. My at-home office. I close the door. I blast music, and as soon as I sign in, it's like I'm on, and they're paying me to be Violet. They don't give a shit about what Lex has got going on. They don't know anything about Lex. They don't know that I'm married. They don't know where I live. On my account, I just have it set to the US, so they don't even know where I am.
Wow. Okay.
So it's literally I'm playing a fucking character. Like that's what it is, and I have to do that in order to make coin.
Yeah. How is it for you, Sadie? Like, how is your mindset knowing that your partner does this? Like, how do you view it?
She fucking loves it when I walk around the house in my slutty outfit.
I bet.
Yeah.
I've always been really supportive, I think like whether or not Lexi was going to do it was never a question for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was always like, how do I best support you while you're doing it? What are the things that you're going to face that I'm going to need to help you talk through? What are the kinds of like the struggles, emotional struggles that get attached to that? We've been having a lot of discussions about gender identity because, Lex has sort of been straddling two different worlds almost.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just, the question for me was never so much, how do I feel about sex work? It's how do I support you while you're doing sex work?
Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
She's been incredible. In the beginning, when I first started, I definitely struggled just for a few days with dealing with allowing myself to lean into all of the misogyny, transphobia, cissexism, misgendering. Coming to a place where you identify as non-binary isn't always easy, especially being someone that's trans femme. You know, it's most of my family, most of the world knows me looking like this.
Mhm.
So for me to say, you know what, I don't identify as a woman anymore, people are very attached to your presentation, and they think that because you have boobs and you wear lashes, well, then you have to be a girl.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of my presentation has changed since we've moved here. You
Mhm.
know, I've ordered a binder. Even when I wear makeup, my makeup will change depending on my presentation. I often present sort of mask of center, and that's why I dropped the I off Lexi, and that
Mhm.
just doesn't fit me anymore, and neither does she her. So when I started to do sex work and I had to lean into that, it was hard. It was hard because
Yeah.
I felt a little at odds with myself. Like, am I doing myself a disservice? Am I doing other trans women a disservice because, you know, I'm letting this guy call me a tranny because he's paying me? Like, you know,
Mhm.
and so you come to a place where you start to sort all that out. And she's been really helpful in helping me set up boundaries for myself and for Violet. You know,
Yeah.
when I'm camming, I now use they, them for the most part, unless
Okay.
it's a regular who I'm comfortable with and they call me she, her. But also, like, I can pin like a comment or something. I have a thing that says, like, I'm not going to tolerate racism, transphobia, you know, abusive language. I had a call last week. Someone was being extremely verbally abusive, and I was able to block them. And it actually blocks their ISP, so they're not able to get in contact with me again. But it still fucked with my head. Like when I left that
Yeah.
call, it was really traumatizing. And I
Yeah.
have sexual assault in my background.
Mhm.
You know, I have been assaulted, and it triggered all of that for me. And I don't know how I would have dealt with that had I been alone or had I not had a partner like her that was so adept at dealing with it. She
Yeah.
really sat with me and took the time to talk me through it. And that's important. I can't imagine what being a trans sex worker is like when you're functioning on your own. Because I get
Yeah.
to put that away. I get to close up Violet and put her the fuck away.
Yeah.
And I get to go back to being Lex and put on a fucking t-shirt and my boxers and sit in the living room with my wife. Like, that's my reality.
Yeah.
So Violet is not my reality, but for trans women who it is their reality, or who work with clients in person, I can't imagine how difficult it is.
Yeah, it's got to be a
Yeah.
whole I that is so true, Lex. Like it's really interesting hearing your take on it and having Sadie as your partner and having somebody you can talk to about all of this and get feedback and kind of set you ground you. But for the trans workers out there or sex workers who don't have that, I mean, where do they turn to? Who do they turn to?
Do
You know
you
Um,
what I
do
mean?
you decompress afterwards, or do you find that like you can kind
oh
of
yeah,
just
and so I
gotten
have this
better?
thing, like, you know, when I'm done with Violet, my laptop, I don't do anything that requires my laptop. You know, I do everything from my phone like everybody else. So my laptop I use for work. You know, when I'm done being Violet, my laptop gets put away, out of sight, out of mind. Um, you know, I move my
Mhm.
tripod and my ring light, and I take off whatever I've got left on. I take that off and I shower, and those things have to happen in a way for me to sort of step out of Violet the same way that I walked into her.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And I can't imagine, you know, I'm fortunate and privileged that my partner is trans and trans femme, and she's able to talk me through a lot of those things. So yeah, for trans women that don't have access to that, yeah, I would say to look at things like Trans Life has peer counseling, has a hotline. Call services that are trans positive, that are trans focused, and get support. Because while I don't do in person work, I can't even imagine what that entails. I only
Yeah.
have one friend that does in person clients, and you know, she's been lucky. She's had no incidents where she's been assaulted or abused, but that's not always the case.
Very
Go to
true.
translifeline.org. There's a phone number you
Yeah.
can
What is it
call.
again, Sadie? Give it again.
Translifeline.org.
Good to know. Good to know. And I have since we're talking about trans life, I know a lot of people are going to ask, how does two trans women in a relationship work? And there's going to be those people who are listening, watching, and very curious because they think of it as you're either gay, you're lesbian, binary, non-binary, straight. So how does that work with two trans women?
Well,
Or
we
your
have
guys'
different
or your
orientations
two
also.
experiences? How
So
does
that's
that work?
another thing that I think gets washed over. Just because you're trans, it doesn't define your orientation. We have different orientations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we have, in terms of like the how does it work, it isn't so much a how does it work as a what do you call it?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Because people are like, I don't know if you're gay or lesbian.
Yeah, which one's the man one?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
Right. So, that is like how it works is exactly how you think it works.
But
Great
there's going
answer.
to be people out there who are wondering, like, does that mean you're both lesbians? Does it make you gay? Does it make you binary? Does it make you? I think people have a mindset because in the English language, there is no word for if you are not female, if you're not male, you're in between. There is no word for it in the English language.
Right.
So how do you?
Transbian.
Transbian. I love that. Transbians
My
is
birthday,
perfect.
I should have warned them. She gave me a pair of earrings that are
Yeah.
laser cut, and it says transbian on the earring. They're these huge.
Oh my god, I love that.
That's great.
So we were talking about my participation with the sisters.
Yes, which we haven't talked about. I'm very curious about this, Lex.
Good tie-in. With the sisters, being a trans femme identifying non-binary person, right? That's a lot.
I know.
The person is a stretch, but
right? Part of me is to be human.
Yeah. So it's the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, right? Is the organization?
Perpetual Indulgence.
Yes. So give a brief for people who may not know the organization. Maybe this is their first time ever hearing about the sisters. Let them know exactly what the organization is, what they raise money for, the whole goal behind it, and how you, Lex, got involved with them.
So the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence started in 1979, and it was started in San Francisco. And it was started to contrast what was called the Castro clone. And we're all really familiar with it. It's been adapted. We see it in Hillcrest. It's, the guys fist pumping at Riches. It's that gay. Every community has them. And
I can't with them.
And so, we deal with when you're not part of the mold, when you're not part of the social construct and you stick out, you get othered within your community.
Mm-hmm.
So the sisters was started to contrast that and to create inclusivity. So in 1979, a group of sisters, and at that point they weren't wearing whiteface. If you all are familiar with them, they dressed sort of like a cross between a drag queen, a clown, and a nun. And whiteface with lots of like crazy makeup. They weren't doing the whiteface, but they were wearing habits. And they were walking through the Castro. And the main goal of the sisters still is, the main tenet is to expiate stigmatic guilt and promulgate joy. So to remind people that you're not what society expects from you or what society tells you you have to be. You're so much more than that. And there is space for you. You are loved. And that's what the whole goal of the sisters is. And that's center stage, above everything else.
Mm-hmm.
They do also raise money for queer nonprofit organizations. They are themselves a licensed nonprofit. And almost every major city in the US has one. And it's starting to follow suit here in Canada.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's great.
I love that.
So I belong to the Acolyte group, which is when you join the sisters, it's sort of a 4-stage process. And that's to prepare you for the things that we do as sisters, or that you will be doing as a sister, also to acclimate you to the way to deal with things when you're out in the community. So the first stage is aspirant, where you're kind of just a groupie. You're hanging out, you're having fun, but you're not really affiliated. You're just there in your normal street clothes, being yourself. The next stage is postulant, which is where I'm at. I'm actually up for what's called elevation right now, which is where you're moving from one part of it to the next on your path. As a postulant, you are wearing some sort of clown costume, white face, and either a wig or a hat. You all have seen me in face, and I do a whole like witch thing. I wear this giant Wizard of Oz conical hat and dress super witchy. So that's where I'm at, and that's where you're learning from a sponsor. You're learning from a sister who has built her what's called mission, her community, her work. And so you're learning from her, and you're learning how to interact with the community. So for me, being trans and being a person of color, that's who I gravitate towards. I really want to be visible for trans femme individuals, specifically TPOC individuals, so that they know that there's space for them. Because right now, especially with everything in such a culture shift, with politics being a fucking disaster and everything sort of being really tumultuous, trans femme identifying individuals are really starting to feel sort of othered within the communities. You know, we're starting to get pushed out of spaces in the belief that we're there to appropriate cis male space, and we're not. So I want to be visible to that, and that's what I'm learning to work with. That's who I'm learning to work for. The next stage, which I'm hoping to elevate to, is novice sister. And, you know, in San Diego, we're fortunate. We have a really prominent house. You'll see the sisters out. If they're wearing a white veil, it means they're a novice sister.
Oh, really?
Okay.
I always wondered about that.
Sister.
Because especially during Pride, well, now in COVID, we're not out social. We don't see the community out as much as we were. But before, we saw them at all of the major events in Hillcrest. They were always out. And they were always the ones that had either the full like full on nun look. Then there were the ones like you said, Lex, that had just the white.
Baby clowns.
Yes. And then there are the ones that always hung around with them, but never in face. So it's very interesting for you to describe the different tiers that the sisters have. Because I did not know that there was different stages that you have to go through for it. So that's very interesting to me.
So the next stage is novice, where you actually are starting to put together a project and facilitate things within the community so that you can eventually become a fully fledged member. Wow. And as a junior member, like, I don't want to speak to like any sort of like what the organization stands for. I definitely encourage you, if you're interested or if you want to donate, to check out their websites. In San Diego, it's sdsisters.org. And they're a really, really amazing group of people. Miriam is familiar with a lot of them because they're really intertwined with the drag community. It's basically just a bunch of queers who want everybody to feel loved. Like that's the goal.
I love that. And it's already like hitting an hour, and like we didn't even get through half of the stuff I wanted to talk to you two about.
Yes, coming back next week.
I know, seriously. Miriam and Eric, do you have any additional questions for Sadie and Lexi that we didn't cover or I'm forgetting?
When are you coming back for a visit?
Yeah.
As soon as we can.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. How about you, Eric?
Searching and interviewing. So, yeah, I'll be back in San Diego sometime, hopefully soon.
Yeah. Oh, yay.
My family's there. And y'all are there.
Eric, any final questions?
Yeah, I was gonna say, kind of going back to the makeup stuff, is like when I was kind of researching for the show, I know that there was, and you touched on it, there's not a lot of places for resources and people to follow. So who are kind of some of your inspiration? I mean, obviously, if you're a listener, they should go follow you, but like, who do you like, and where do you find your influences and inspiration from?
You know, there isn't anyone in specific that I can like really like reference. as far as my like makeup inspirations, like Lisa Eldridge is a huge makeup inspiration for me. If you're not familiar with her work, she really works on minimalism, which
Okay.
for trans femme people, it's really hard because we look on YouTube and we see drag tutorials, or we see trans girls who have had facial feminization, but they're also painting in front of a ring light. So they look like this. And this isn't something you're going to wear to the office when you work at a bank. So learning to work with like the least amount of product possible is a huge thing. So Lisa Eldridge is great. She's not trans. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of trans makeup artists that really do a wearable day face.
Lex and
That's
Sadie,
my inspiration.
are you still doing the classes for the trans beauty? Are you
Yeah,
guys still
absolutely,
offering those?
absolutely. We're trying to keep everything obviously socially distant and do
Yeah.
everything online. But yeah, if there's any trans listeners who are in her bracelet just exploded and like if there's any trans listeners who are interested and want to set up something, please message us, DM us. There is no charge. It's something that I do because I'm passionate about it. And I'm willing to work with people in terms of time and days, and then also working with what you already have so that you're not running out to buy a bunch of crap that you probably don't need.
And then
Yeah,
Sadie,
I love that you recommend brands and products too. I
Yes.
think that's really great.
Very
Like there's even
personal.
stuff that I use. I'm like, I use that tinted moisturizer. I love that. So
Yeah.
that's really cool.
There's so much stuff out there. It's hard to know what to grab.
We really love DCM, which is a Toronto-based brand.
Yeah.
Love them.
Great skincare.
DCM is great.
And
it's at a really accessible price too.
Yeah. And we hate Jeffree Star. Throw out all your Jeffree Star stuff.
Right?
I can't stand him. That is a whole nother
Is it
show.
racist or because he's a misogynist?
God, I
Or
can't
does he
stand that
stand
guy.
so
Sadie, I was gonna ask you before we get to Carol of the Week. Your classes, how often are you doing the classes? Because I know I just saw on your Instagram you posted that you just started the trans study one. So if people that are listening in Canada want to take one of your trans study classes, how do they go about doing that?
So it's pretty much, I mean, I'm not, I'm what you call a well, I guess I'll call it a part-time worker. So when I can host them is beholden to when the institution decides that they want to run it.
Yeah.
So far, this is the second year that in the fall term at the University of Western Ontario in London, I am holding it. And last winter at the University of Toronto, I held a similar class for the Women and Gender Studies Institute. So I'm hoping to do more, but honestly, I don't know. It's not really up to me.
Especially with everything with COVID going on and schooling and all of that. Yeah, I'm sure that plays a part in it.
It might be cool for me to figure out a way to make it just like some online lectures or something.
Yeah.
When I have time, when I'm not writing a book and doing.
How is the book going, and when are you expecting? Because I'm sure it's like a shitload of research for the book. How is the book coming along, and when do you plan on finding an end date for it and a publisher?
So good portions of it have been written and passed through multiple editors because I did like a basic version of something like it for my dissertation, which I defended this past November. So that already went through all of my advisory committee at UCSD, which is like 6 people. And then I also have an article coming out soon about me and my friend Strawberry Corn Cakes that you've had on the show.
Yeah, she's been a past guest. I love her. That's it. If people haven't listened to that episode, Black Girl, or was it Black Drag Magic? I forget the name of the episode, but it was a great conversation I sat down and had with Strawberry Corn Cakes. It was a really fun episode. Like that was a really good one. Go back and check that one out. But you and Corn Cakes have been friends for a long time, right, Sadie?
Yeah. Actually, Strawberry and I, we didn't actually meet each other, but we were both at a Mickey Blanco show at Soda Bar, and I think it was
Soda Bar.
2016 or something. And we like Strawberry was in the background of my photo with Mickey. It was just like a weird. If anybody doesn't know Mickey Blanco, they're like a really fantastic queer rapper.
Yeah.
And then I started going to the cornball. Votes. I think I walked in one of them.
Yeah.
I walked in two of them. Didn't win anything. No. Nadia thought
Anybody
it was
really
cute.
win at the cornball though?
Anybody win?
So yeah,
Just the chasers.
Strawberry and I had been friends for a while, and we're friends outside of drag, which is great. And the article that I wrote was about this really fun time we had on our birthday and a really interesting conversation we had where Strawberry called my drag political in a way that kind of called hers not political. So the conversation is about that word political and how there's kind of like a whiteness that gets attached to doing something that's political or an activist. And obviously with Black Drag Matters and with the everything post George Floyd, I think that a lot of our Black drag queens are having the confidence to call their work political and to claim it as such. But that wasn't going on before. So that article should be coming out soon. But anyway, all that shit's gonna go in the book. So I have all that stuff written. But I'm also trying to get some money. So I'm applying for grants right now. And if I get money, then that makes me take longer because I have money to sit on.
There
But if I don't get money, then it'll come out quicker because I don't have money to sit on.
People send money. Send money so we get this
Send
book
money.
of San Diego drag history and trans history out. That would be amazing. But you guys, we're going to finish off the show today, and Lex knows this segment that we do because they listen to the podcast. It is time, everybody. Carol of the Week.
And then there's Carol. Sassy, slutty, sexy, stinky, right on, Carol. I'm Carol.
Carol, for once in your life, shut your damn mouth.
I love the Carol dance, Miss Mariam T. Yes, and for people who don't know what Carol is your gripe of the week, the one thing that just pisses you off that you just got to get off your chest. So we're going to get through some really quick carols, everybody. Who wants to go first? Who has a carol?
I have a carol.
Okay, Eric, you go first. Set it off.
I am my own carol because this week I went to
Damn
Rich's.
it, you're my Carol too.
And mine. No, I'm kidding.
I always am. I went to Rich's and I literally ate my own words because I didn't really want to go because, the crowd and the scene of Rich's isn't, always my thing. But the outdoor lounge is so cool and so beautiful.
Absolutely stunning.
And so clean. And the staff was really amazing and really on top of it. I had a really great time and felt really safe. So I am my own Carol for talking shit on myself for that. So.
And there's a lot of the staff, Kixie Vixen Styles and I always say her name wrong, Naomi Daniels. They both they work there, right? Right, Miss Mariam T?
And Keeks and Evelyn.
Evelyn, yes.
Ella.
Yes, a lot of the friends of the podcast are there.
Unemployed.
And I've heard the with Rich's, like the staff and Rich's themselves is on top of it as far as keeping everything safe within the COVID and everything happening. But as the Patreons, the people that go, they make sure you follow the rules, wear your mask, social distance, and all of that good stuff. What about you, Miss Mariam T? Do you have a carol this week?
I sure do.
Oh no, here we go. Oh
My
no.
Carol is people that are not confident enough in themselves to validate their own existence or their own artwork and have to lie, stir up shit, and cause false controversy to get validation for their lack of artistic ability.
Do you want any names? Names? No?
No.
Okay. Do they know who you're talking about?
I mean, I don't know if they listen to the podcast.
I know.
the people in the community that listen to the podcast will know exactly who I'm talking about.
I think I know who you're talking
Validate
about.
yourself.
I
sis.
think I
I
know
think
who
I
you're talking
know.
about.
And like stop being such a nuisance.
Yeah.
also.
How about
Yes.
Lex and Sadie? Do you both have a Carol of the week?
I'm gonna let Lex take this one because I didn't know that we were supposed to prepare something. This
I
is
failed.
the first time that I've not done my homework, and I'm really embarrassed.
Lex knows this. Lex knows this segment very well. Go ahead, Lex. Let's hear it.
So my Carol of the week. Dudes, when you fucking DM someone, have more to say than hey. Ain't nobody's pussy getting wet over hey. Don't even say hey. Just Venmo me, bitch. Don't
Shut
even
your
say
pie
hey.
hole. We're working here.
Oh, what was that? I bit the wrong button.
Take
Oh
the
my
soundboard
God.
away from
I'm
Grandpa.
working here. Yeah,
So
hey,
DM.
if you say hey. Although I talked to Rob about this last
Yeah.
night. I did get a DM from an adult film star who wants me to.
I
which we
heard
can
this.
talk about. Who wants me to shoot with him?
And it's a very
He's not
popular.
done trans- He's very
porn star,
popular, and
yeah.
he's not done any trans films before. Miriam, I'll DM you some photos.
Oh, I didn't even
looks
think
like
about
he
this,
was
Lex.
just-
This is
he looks like he
totally,
just out of prison. He is Miriam's bag.
it's totally.
Oh,
I
God.
just didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well,
So,
are
like,
you considering it, Lex? Lex, are you
What?
considering doing it?
Yeah, if you can give me some fucking coin.
Hell yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. We've talked about it, and why not? You know, it's not.
Would you
It's
venture into the
Nobody's
world of
seen
porn
Angie's
if
porn?
this?
Nobody's seen that DVD that goes around the Hillcrest with TNT.
Wow, Sadie.
I love TNT.
That's gonna be
Girl, I
mine.
miss you so
Fuck
much.
that. If I do
fucking
porn, I'm
love
buying
you.
billboards. I'm
There
putting
you
my
go.
shit on a billboard. I want everybody to know.
Yes.
That would be, and this is a pretty big porn star. Though we're not going to say his name or
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
like that, but it's a legit porn star that reached
Yeah,
out to you. So
I'm waiting to get an offer and a
contract and all that.
contract.
Nice.
So,
Wow.
Yay.
So my Carol of the week is people who have kids. Just because you have kids does not give you a pass in life. Does not mean you don't have to follow the rules. Does not mean that you get special treatment because you have offspring. I am sorry, but no. Like, I am
biology,
using this
baby.
example because I was driving down the road to get to our house, and this gentleman and his young daughter were literally, he had her riding on her bike in the middle of the street. I was doing the speed limit, and he yelled at me for coming too close to them when they were literally, I rolled down my window and I said, get the fuck out of the middle of the street. And then I got yelled at for using the F word in front of his daughter. And I said, I don't fucking care. Get out of the fucking street. Just because you have a kid doesn't mean you own this whole street. Oh, it drives me crazy. Absolutely crazy. Just because you have a kid.
Fucking breeders.
Oh.
Fucking
They're
breeders.
special because they forget to pull out.
But it's
when
like
people talk about the miracle of
have
birth.
sex with a trans
No.
girl. That way she can't get pregnant.
there you go. But it drives me crazy. Like,
I have a surprise announcement.
Yes.
I am pregnant. Okay.
you are? So is Rob. Nobody knows.
Abortion's legal in Canada.
Hi, I'm here too.
Your mic is off.
I always
God damn
forget
it.
to. Hi, I'm here too.
Yes,
Oh,
Rob
hi,
has been
Rob.
in.
And I know we're near the end of the show, but I just wanted to invite you both back on whenever you want. There's so much to
Yes.
cover. I know we didn't get into a lot of stuff, but you could be our Canadian correspondents
Yeah.
and keep us informed on what happens in the Great White North. That's
The
now.
weather is similar but more humid.
Oh god. Because so for people who are listening, I had a list of questions and topics that we were gonna get to with Sadie and Lex, and we literally not even got through half of the list. There is so much more to cover with the two of you. You are welcome back on the show anytime you want.
Yeah.
I really want to do a follow-up episode and really, really dive in to some of the topics we did not get into. Like, is he queer? We didn't even talk about that, Lex. And I had questions for that. So you guys, you both need to come back on the show again. Share a lot of the stories, and I'm sure Lex is gonna have a lot more with the coming. But y'all, how do people reach the two of you if they want to get in touch with you and all of that stuff? Where they can find you both on social media?
Instagram at Sadie Pins. It's like safety pins, but my name, Sadie Pins.
There you go. And Lex?
Also at beauties.trans.services for our makeup shit.
Yes, go check both of those Instagram pages out. And Lex, how do people find you?
So for Lex, you can find me at Coiffed and Glossed. It's COIFFED_and_glossed. Shut up.
So they're actually private, so you can't.
And I'm private, but my sex work page is Violet Femme, 2 T's, 2 M's .ts. And if you go to my main page in the web link, it'll take you right to my sex work page.
There you
and
go.
my Venmo is Violet Femme.
There you go, everybody.
Venmo is Sadie Pins.
Sadie Pins, go send Sadie Pins some money so we can get this freaking book down.
Tony, you didn't listen. She said if she gets the money, she's not going to finish the book.
Oh,
quickly.
damn it. I know,
This is your podcast.
I know. I have a lot going on.
Yourself,
So
Venmo
don't
page.
send her money so we can get the book out. And Miss Miriam T, how do people find you?
You can find
Never
me
mind.
publicly
How do people
assaulting-
find? No, I'm
You
kidding.
can find me publicly assaulting Tony at any given moment.
Oh God.
You can
You're
find
off
me on my-
next week, right? I get a break from you? No? Yes? Maybe
You can
so?
find me on my website, sheherme.com, or my Instagram, themariamt. I have new merch for sale. Also for my
So
San
cute.
Diego. Pardon?
Love it. It's so cute.
Yes, the
Thank
new
you.
merch is cute. I will give you
Um,
that.
For my San Diego folks, we are bringing trivia back at Moe's. So I will be hosting Disney trivia outside on September 14th. So keep an eye out
Yes.
for that.
Yeah,
Yay.
don't
Can I
go.
comment on her merch really quick? Also, I'm going to be a shady bitch. Miriam is one of the few queens whose merch actually looks like them. Like the photo on it actually looks like them. I'm just saying. They're listening. Queens that are listening.
Some of these queens,
I love you.
I'm not
shout
gonna
out
say
to
anything.
Xanadu, a wonderful, wonderful human Xanadu is for designing.
Oh, she
Yes,
did
my-
such a good job.
The newest merch she did, yes. I don't know who did my original merch.
Yeah, Xanadu did
She did
such a
that
good
for me.
job with the.
Xanadu did such a good job. I
Yeah.
feel like a character from The Nanny.
Yes.
So good.
Yeah.
Right? And how do people find you, Eric?
You can find me at Instagram at PartyBearEric. And thank you, Lex and Sadie, for coming today. This has been
Yes.
one of my favorite episodes.
Mine too.
Yes.
Mine too. Thank you, guys. Thank you to everybody who's been watching and listening. Make sure you comment below. If you have questions for Sadie and Lex, send them in the comments. Send us an email at thegang@whoinvitedher.net because we are definitely going to have the both of them back on for a part 2 of this episode. So send any questions, any comments you have. Comment on YouTube with any questions you have. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get podcasts. And you can watch us every Saturday live, 12:30 on our YouTube channel, Who Invited Her Podcast. You can follow the podcast on Instagram. It is Who Invited Her _podcast. We are Who Invited Her ST on Facebook and Twitter. Our email is thegang@whoinvitedher.net. I don't know why I keep forgetting it every week. We've been saying it for almost
Because you're an
3 years.
idiot.
You know what? Shut her mic off. She's canceled. Shut her mic off. I'm canceling Miss Miriam who? Miss Miriam who? You can watch us also on Out at TV app. and the Now Trending app. You can watch us there every Saturday, live at 12:30. That is it for us. Thank you, Lex and Sadie. It has been an awesome episode with you, and I cannot wait for part 2 of this interview.
Can Eddie Danger be on it too?
I know, Eddie Danger. Oh, Eddie. I love Eddie. He's so fun.
Yes.
But everybody, we will see you next week, and Bash should be here next week, hopefully. But we will see you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.